Hey guys, Parfax here. Today I'm bringing you a 1v1 PvP weapon tier list for New World. It's just meant to be fun. Let me know in the comment section down below which ones I got right in your opinion and which ones I got wrong. All right, here's the video. All right, so we're here on the tier make here again, and we're going to be ranking these weapons in a 1v1 sense, at least when it came to the beta. I know you guys typically like this, well, either that or hate it, but I figured we'd rank them just for fun. We got a lot of time before New World launches, so I wanted to just bring you guys some fun, interesting content that at least people will like to interact with, and we can just have a good time with. None of this is meant to insult you if you use this weapon and it's a lower tier than some of the other weapons. I know every one of these weapons has probably beat me in a 1v1, and I've beaten people with every one of these weapons except for one or two of these weapons that I've never, or at least I didn't use in the beta. And all right, so let's get started. We're first going to start with the battle axe here. This is clearly S tier. Anybody that used it knows that it's absolutely insane. It's great in large scale, great in small scale. This weapon is great. It does have a bug that allows you to double hit. So even without it, this would still probably be S tier. And I imagine this weapon will probably see a nerf before launch. Next, we have the bow. And while we're going to the bow, I want to address something. Most of these weapons, if built a certain way, can be very good in 1v1s. Each one of these have a specific tree they can go down or a specific way they can build that will allow them to be very mobile or very tanky. We're going to try to, essentially take out the super busted stuff, because essentially you could just go life staff in any of these weapons with heavy armor and be super tanky. We're not going to go into those specific really troll builds, because you can pretty much put everything in the S tier if you pair it with heavy armor and the life staff. And you're like, Parfax, not all these scale with the life staff. Well, you can make them scale with focus. So, you can... We're not going to put that in there, because I believe, essentially, in my opinion, if you put any of these with life staff and scale them on focus, that they can all be essentially put in the S tier. All right, so next we're going to have a bow. We're going to put it in the... We'll put it in the B tier, mainly because of server latency, and in a pretty even duel, it doesn't do that much damage. Now, mind you, if you get really good with the bow is an S tier weapon. But we're just going to do... on average players' hands versus another average player, we're going to put the bow in the B tier. This weapon can for sure be in the S tier. There are a few people out there that are in the S tier. I had a couple of duels with somebody that was really fun. I was running, I think, Battle Axe. I think I was running something weird. I don't remember exactly what I was running, but I was running against a bow. And we had two extremely long duels of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I won one, he won one, but he did a very good job with the bow, and the bow can easily be S tier if you have somebody that really knows how to use it or has put a lot of time with it. The only reason I'm putting it in a B is we're going, player base that is average versus average. So put your troll comments down below. I know people are going to be very upset that I put the bow in the B tier here. But we're going average player versus average player. Next, we're going to do the fire staff. The fire staff, I've went back and forth on. Every one of these weapons can be S tier in the right hand. So let's put that out there. On an average player on the fire staff, we're going to probably we'll put it like B plus to A tier. It's not the best 1v1 weapon when you first pick it up, but once you get a little bit of time with it, it can be pretty decent. I've won a decent amount of duels with the fire staff. I've lost some duels against the fire staff, but the fire staff is just overall pretty good. It really needs a lot of mana, which can be a little awkward, so you do have to spam potions, which can be annoying, and if you don't have your potion management, it can be very unfortunate. Now, once you get the fire staff fully maxed out, a lot of your mana issues go away. But the fire staff's a great weapon. You can 1v1 with it. You can large scale with it. It's just an overall pretty decent weapon, and I think it's actually in a really good spot. I know some people think it needs a nerf, but I don't think it needs a nerf nearly as much as some of the other weapons that are going to be on this list. Next, the Ice Gauntlet. We're just going to put that up here in S tier. You can do so many things with the Ice Gauntlet. You can essentially stun lock somebody with the Ice Gauntlet. You can slow them to eternity with the Ice Gauntlet. It's pretty insane. The Ice Gauntlet will probably see a nerf in the overall sense. If not, I hope some of the other weapons get a buff. But I hope they just kind of... I think I even heard that there's a like glitch with the Ice Gauntlet with its slow. I don't know. But the Ice Gauntlet's really insane, really good. It has great CC, great damage, pretty much great everything. Next, you have the Hatchet. We know where this is going. This is S tier. It is the best catch weapon in the game, especially paired with something like the Great Axe that has a movement skill on it. It does pretty good damage. It has life regen on it, essentially. It has a can't die mechanic on it. It's just a really good weapon, and I imagine Berserk itself may see a nerf when it comes to launch. Life Staff, we're going to go S tier. We're not going to talk about it too much. Life Staff just can make people, if you make a specific build, can be very tanky. I try not to do, like I said, we could put the Life Staff, I mean the Life Staff is probably right here. You can make specific troll builds with it. We're going to go average player versus average player. We could put everything up here in the S tier if we just paired it essentially with the Life Staff and Heavy Armor. But the Life Staff's pretty fun and very enjoyable. Well, sort of. Right, let's go. All right, next we're going to have the Spear. We're going to put it right in the A tier. I don't think it's quite as good as the other weapons. It doesn't bring quite the punch as the other weapons, but it provides a lot of really good CC. It's a really good weapon. I love the Spear. I've used it a ton. I think it's in a great place, honestly, but it doesn't quite have the damage of something like the Hatchet or the Battle Axe, but it has a lot of good CC, and that's why it's A tier, which is a great spot for it to be. Next, we have the Sword and Shield. I know it has just a sword icon, but it's the Sword and Shield. We're going to put it as a 1v1 weapon. We're going to put it like in the A- tier. A-, B+. It's a really good weapon, but it's definitely made for group play more than solo play, but it has a decent amount of CC, it has a decent amount of damage, so it's actually just in a great spot. It's kind of like the Spear, where it's not really overpowered in this type of format in the 1v1 aspect, but it actually is in a great spot. I think it's very well balanced. Now, a lot of people do like to run Sword and Shield because it does bring a lot of utility to your kit, and you can be very tanky with it, which I really like. I don't think it's overpowered in the least bit. It is definitely powerful, but I don't think it's overpowered. So we'll put it in the solid A tier. Musket. Most of you know where I'm probably going to put this. We're going to put it ahead of the bow. Actually, we'll put it right with the bow, because the bow's a better probably 1v1 weapon than the musket. But again, we're talking average player to average player. The musket's a fine weapon. I don't think it needs a buff per se. Maybe it does. It might be a little bit less than some of the other weapons. But it's just a good overall weapon, and you can have a lot of fun playing with the musket. It's a great ranged weapon. I don't think there's really anything right now that's overpowered about it. It's kind of in a great spot, but you do have to know how to use it. It is a lot of fun when you can get those big damaging shots off with it. Most of the players that I've played against that use it are pretty bad with it because of, things like server latency and the fact that in New World you actually have to truly aim your skills, and a lot of people will fail in that aspect because everybody being either in heavy armor or in light armor dodging all around. The heavy armor, they're not going to hit that much. In the light armor, they're going to be able to dodge essentially every time. When I was playing against muskets, I just basically waited till my dodge was up. Whenever they would go to fire at me, I would just dodge. I did the same thing with the bow, and it makes it really hard for you to hit your shots when the enemy is doing that. But still a good weapon if you know how to use it. But we're going to put it in the B tier mainly just because it is a higher skill capped weapon, and the average player won't use it to its full potential. You'd be better off with essentially any of the melee weapons above. Next, we're going to go Warhammer. Warhammer was a very meta weapon in the beta. But when it comes to 1v1s, I honestly think it's a B tier weapon. I think that you could pair, especially Great Axe Warhammer, and I use this combo a little bit to test it out. I think essentially if you pair the Great Axe with any of the other melee weapons, then I think it would be better off. Now, not saying that the great or the Warhammer isn't great. If you had somebody that doesn't know how to properly dodge, if they are lower skill than you, then the Warhammer absolutely devastates them. The Warhammer will absolutely chunk your health. It has a lot of just built-in CC, can be really, really good. But I think in a 1v1 sense, I personally would much rather have the sword and board, the spear, the hatchet, the ice gauntlet, the battle axe, the fire. Actually, probably almost any of them, depending on what you're running, than the Warhammer. It doesn't have any movement skills. It has a locked animation. It is considered to be the clunkiest weapon in the game. And it just doesn't synergize that well in specifically 1v1s, but in like 1vx situations, 1v2, 1v3, 2v4, anytime there's more essentially than one person, I think the Warhammer significantly climbs on this tier list, but I just don't think it's that great. It's probably the worst 1v1 weapon in my opinion. I originally had the Fire Staff, but the Fire Staff has grown on me now that I've went back and watched some of my duels and stuff like that, and I've seen how well I did with the Fire Staff, and I kind of bumped it up a little bit when it comes to the 1v1 aspect, but I think the Warhammer is just a bad 1v1 weapon. Now, like I said, all these weapons have their place. All these weapons can easily kill people 1v1. We're going a tier list against themselves, not against the overall aspect of PvP, because, you know, whatever reason you want to bring up that this weapon's, you're dumb because you put it here. And I know I'm going to get those comments, but I really don't care. I enjoy people putting in their perspective, and I put the life staff up higher mainly because of what people thought. And I went back and looked, and my server didn't have a ton of the super meta life staff builds. So I went and looked at other servers, which is the reason why we put it S tier. Life staff was always a high tier weapon for me. But there are a few broken builds, and we're not going, like I said, we're not going to judge these builds off the broken builds. We're just going to go average player versus average player. Next, least. No, I'm just kidding. The Rapier I like. It is probably the funnest weapon to play in the game. It's very flashy, very fast, very cool. We're going to put the Rapier, we're going to put it in the A tier. I don't think it's an S tier weapon. I think it's a pretty good 1v1 weapon. I don't think there's anything particularly insane about it. In the right hands, like I said, each one of these weapons can do absolutely devastating damage. But the Rapier is just a solid weapon. Now, when it comes to my tier list, I will say this. I think everything in the A tier is essentially perfectly balanced. I think everything in the S tier is probably a little bit overbalanced, and everything in the B tier is a little bit maybe undertuned or just needs the right person to actually wield it. Just because I have it in the B tier doesn't mean in the right hands it can't be an S tier weapon. There are a few bow builds out there and a few bow people out there that have absolutely, you know, are almost unkillable with the bow because they're so slippery, and you have to have essentially a certain set of builds to catch them because they are so slippery. Now, that's going to change, hopefully, here once live hits, and they're going to change some armor. I actually have a few videos I want to do on specific armor. I see a lot of people putting out videos about it, but I want to wait at least to tell you guys what armor you should run until New World actually releases their updates closer to, you know, when the game is actually going to launch, so I can give you guys the correct information. So if you're watching this at the time that the game actually launches, that it's not any real misinformation. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Here's my tier list. I didn't put anything in the C tier. I didn't put anything in the D tier. It's all S, A, or B. Let me know in the comment section down below where I got wrong. I know you guys are going to hate me for the bow down there in the B tier. People love their bow. I love the bow too. The bow is just a higher skill weapon. People miss probably 85% of their shots with the bow, which is the reason why it's down in the B tier. It does need a little bit of a buff, I still think. I think it's probably the weakest overall weapon in the game, and I think it just needs some tweaks. And I heard somebody say, well, somebody can one-shot you, like a level 60 can one-shot a level 25 with a bow. It's a 60 to a 25. I had a 54, literally 2 auto my Ice Gauntlet Ice Tomb. So I don't want to hear about these higher level. I want even level field. I know we have level scaling, which works pretty well in the game, but it doesn't work that well when it comes to a lot higher level people. It seems like once you get into the mid 50s to upper 60s, that's when level scaling really kind of goes off, because they just do so much more damage than the people that are, you know, in their 30s. So when it's pretty even, when you're down low, like in the 20s and 30s, like if someone's a 17 to a 25, I think it's pretty even. So but once you get up there in the like the 60 range, 55, 50, 60, anywhere around there, it seems that the level scaling doesn't work that well, which is fine in my opinion. I like level scaling, but I don't think I should be able to beat a 60 as a level 15. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. All that stuff's down in the description down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.